You know that specific second when your entire existence shatters? I lived through it. My name is Mateo. I am 35 years old. I returned from a combat zone expecting to fall into my wife's arms. Instead, I found her on top of my own brother in our marital bed. Some men might have walked away. Some might have collapsed. Not me. I did not retreat. I channeled every ounce of rage into immediate, devastating action. I destroyed them legally, financially, and socially. Because if someone you trust betrays you in the worst possible way, you make sure they pay for it. This is that story. But before I go any further, let me know in the comments where you are watching from. And make sure to subscribe because tomorrow I will share the next part of this story. I spent the last 9 months in the desert. Staff Sergeant, leading good men through impossible situations. The deployment had been extended twice. Every night, I stared at the photo of Camila and thought about getting home to her. We had been married for 7 years. No kids yet. We had been trying, but the deployments kept getting in the way. She seemed supportive in every video call. She told me she was proud of me. She told me she missed me. I managed to catch an earlier flight home. I pulled strings through my commanding officer because I wanted to surprise her. I imagined her face when I walked through the door 3 weeks early. I drove from the base, still in my desert fatigues, with my duffel bag over my shoulder. It was 2 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. I unlocked the front door quietly. I thought maybe she was napping. I planned to wake her gently. The house smelled like her perfume. Vanilla. For a second, everything felt normal, like I was really home. Then I heard sounds from upstairs. Rhythmic. Unmistakable. Every instinct from years of combat training kicked in. I moved silently up the stairs. My heartbeat was steady despite the growing thunder in my chest. Our bedroom door was half open, and there they were. Camila was on top of Diego, my wife and my younger brother. Both of them were so lost in their betrayal that they did not hear me enter the room. I did not hesitate. I did not freeze. I flipped the light switch. Diego. They sprang apart like they had been electrocuted. Camila screamed and scrambled for the sheets. Diego's face went white, then red. His mouth opened and closed like a fish. I was across the room in 2 strides. He tried to get up. He tried to put his hands out. Mateo, wait. I can explain. My fist caught him square in the jaw. He went down hard on the mattress. I was on him instantly. Years of hand-to-hand training made this effortless. I heard Camila screaming behind me, but it sounded distant. Meaningless. You are my brother, I shouted. I grabbed him by the throat. My face was inches from his. Blood streamed from his nose. How long? Mateo, please, he wheezed. How long? I tightened my grip. 6 months, he choked out. 6 months. Half my deployment. Every video call where she smiled and said she missed me. Every time I asked Diego to check on her, and he said, "Do not worry, brother. I have her covered." The rage that washed over me was so pure it felt cold. I shoved Diego back against the headboard. That was when I saw it. On the nightstand, next to their phones, was a thick manila folder. It was open. I recognized the logo on the top paper. It was a real estate contract. I grabbed the folder. My eyes scanned the document. Power of attorney. Sale pending. I looked from the paper to Diego. You are selling my house. Diego flinched. We needed the money. You were gone. We thought. You thought what? My voice dropped to a whisper. You thought I would not come back? Or you planned to sell my home, take the equity, and run before I returned? Camila finally spoke. She wrapped the sheet around herself, mascara running down her face. Mateo, we have debts. Diego lost his job. We were going to pay you back. I laughed. It was a harsh, cold sound. You sleep with my wife. You live in my house. And now I find out you were stealing my property while I was getting shot at? I stood up. The betrayal was not just physical. It was total. They were erasing my life. Get dressed, I told Diego. Get out of my house. You are dead to me. You hear me? Dead. I do not have a brother anymore. Diego grabbed his clothes, his hands shaking violently. Mateo, we need to talk about this. The sale closes on Friday. We cannot stop it now. Watch me, I said. Get out. Now, before I change my mind about letting you walk out of here alive. He left, practically running, pulling his shirt on as he stumbled down the hallway. I heard the front door slam. I turned back to Camila. She was crying now, full sobs. You made a choice, I said. You made it every single day for 6 months. I was lonely, she said. You were gone all the time. I was working, I snapped. I was securing our future. And while I was doing that, you were conspiring with a thief to sell the roof over my head. I walked to the closet and grabbed my old gym bag. I threw it at her. Pack your essentials. You have 10 minutes. Where am I supposed to go? She asked. Go find Diego. You two seem to share everything else. I did not wait for her answer. I went downstairs to the kitchen. My hands were shaking now. The adrenaline was fading, leaving room for the pain. But I pushed it down. I picked up my phone. I did not call my parents. I did not call a friend. I called the bank. This is Sergeant Mateo Garcia. I need to freeze all my accounts immediately. Check for any recent large withdrawals. The operator paused. One moment, sir. She came back on the line 10 seconds later. Her voice was hesitant. Sir, I see a withdrawal from this morning. $20,000. It was a transfer to an account under the name Diego Garcia. I closed my eyes. They had not just tried to sell the house. They had emptied my savings. The money I had saved for the children we were supposed to have. Freeze it all, I said, and flag it as fraud. I hung up the phone. Upstairs, I heard the zipper of a suitcase. Camila was leaving. My marriage was over. My brother was an enemy. My savings were gone. But as I stood in the silent kitchen of the house they tried to sell out from under me, I realized something. They thought they had broken me. They thought the soldier would come home and collapse. They were wrong. The war was not over. It had just moved to a new battlefield, and I was going to win. By 8 o'clock that evening, Camila was gone. I did not sit around and mourn. I called a locksmith. He arrived within the hour. I watched him drill out the cylinders on the front and back doors. The sound of metal grinding against metal was soothing. It was the sound of my perimeter being secured. I paid him $300 in cash. When he left, I locked every bolt. I finally slept, my weapon on the nightstand, not out of fear, but out of habit. The next morning, I was at the office of Ricardo Morales. He was the best divorce attorney in the city. He was expensive, but I did not care about the cost. I cared about the result. I placed the manila folder on his mahogany desk. They tried to sell the house, I said, and they took $20,000 from the joint savings account. Ricardo opened the folder. He scanned the power of attorney document. His eyebrows shot up. This notary stamp. Ricardo tapped the paper. It is dated 2 weeks ago. Were you in the country? No. I was in the desert. Then this is forgery, Ricardo said. He leaned back. Mateo, this is not just a divorce case anymore. This is grand larceny and fraud. We can have them arrested today. I thought about it. The image of Diego in handcuffs was tempting, but it was too fast. I wanted them to feel the pressure build. I wanted them to realize they had lost everything piece by piece. File for the divorce, I said. Fault-based. Adultery and financial misconduct. I want the house. I want my pension protected. And I want that $20,000 back with interest. We will freeze their assets, Ricardo said, typing rapidly. I will file an emergency motion to block the sale of the house. The realtor will be notified within the hour. If they try to sign anything, they go to jail. I left his office feeling lighter. I had a plan, but Camila was not done. She had one move left, a move I should have anticipated. 2 days later, I was in the garage, organizing my tools. The sound of a siren cut through the neighborhood silence. I walked out to the driveway. A police cruiser screeched to a halt in front of my mailbox. 2 officers stepped out. One had his hand resting near his holster. Sir, put your hands where we can see them, the taller officer commanded. I raised my hand slowly. I am a staff sergeant in the United States Army. I am cooperating. What is the problem, officers? We received a call about a domestic disturbance, the officer said, walking up the driveway. Your wife, Camila Garcia, filed a report this morning. She claims you assaulted her 3 days ago when you ejected her from the home. She says you struck her in the face and threw her down the stairs. My blood ran cold. This was the nuclear option. If they arrested me, she would get a temporary protective order. I would be barred from my own home. She would move back in by tonight. It was a tactical maneuver to seize the ground I had just secured. She has visible bruising, the second officer added. She says you did it. I knew exactly what had happened. Diego. He probably hit her, or she hit herself, to frame me. They were desperate. They needed a place to live, and they needed access to the house to finish the sale. I did not touch her, I said calmly. That is for the judge to decide, the first officer said. Turn around. He reached for his handcuffs. Wait, I said. Check my phone. Sir, we are not here to look at pictures. I installed security cameras inside the house before I deployed, I said, my voice steady. Motion activated. Cloud storage. I have the footage of that entire afternoon. You can see exactly what happened. The officers hesitated. The tall one lowered his hand. Show me. Slowly. I pulled my phone from my pocket. I opened the app and found the timestamp. Tuesday. 2:15 in the afternoon. I pressed play and handed the phone to the officer. The video was clear. It showed me walking up the stairs. It showed the confrontation. It showed me punching Diego. It showed me throwing his clothes at him. And it showed Camila, standing unharmed. It showed me handing her a bag. It showed me pointing at the door. I never laid a finger on her. She walked out on her own 2 legs, dragging her suitcase, perfectly fine. The officer watched the video twice. He looked at his partner. She lied. He handed the phone back to me. Sergeant, this changes things. Filing a false police report is a serious crime. I want to press charges, I said. And I want that report noted as false immediately so she cannot use it to get back into my house. We will handle it, the officer said. His demeanor changed completely. He was respectful now. We will go pay Ms. Garcia a visit. They left. I stood in the driveway, watching the red taillights fade. They had tried to destroy my reputation. They had tried to have me arrested. They had declared total war. I went back inside and called Ricardo. Add defamation and malicious prosecution to the list, I told him. And Ricardo? Find out where that $20,000 went. I want to know exactly what they bought. It took 3 days for the bank to trace the wire transfer. I was sitting at my kitchen table when the email came through. The money had not gone to pay off debts. It had not gone to rent an apartment. The transfer was to a dealership called Velocity Motors. I drove there an hour later. It was a flashy lot on the south side of town, filled with overpriced imports. I walked into the sales office and slapped the bank statement on the desk. My brother, Diego Garcia, bought a car here last week, I told the manager. He used stolen funds. I am here to repossess that vehicle. The manager looked nervous. He typed the name into his computer. Yeah, a black sports coupe. 2-seater. He picked it up Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning. Hours before I came home. Diego had stolen my money to buy a sports car to impress my wife. The level of disrespect was breathtaking. Where's the car now? I asked. It has a GPS tracker, the manager said. All our finance cars do. Good, I said. Tell me where it is. He turned the screen toward me. A red dot blinked on the map. It was parked at a motel on the edge of town. The cheapest motel in the city. I smiled. They were not living in luxury. They were hiding. And I was coming to take the only thing they had left. I parked my truck across the street from the motel. I did not go alone. I had called a towing company and showed them the repossession order and the proof of fraud from the dealership. The driver, a large man named Hank, nodded once and backed his rig into the spot where the black sports coupe sat. The sound of the chains rattling woke them up. The motel door flew open. Diego ran out, shirtless and barefoot. Camila followed him, looking disheveled and panicked. Hey, what are you doing? Diego shouted, running toward the tow truck. That is my car. Put it down. I stepped out of my truck. Diego stopped dead when he saw me. He looked from me to the car, which was already being lifted into the air. You bought that car with stolen money, I said. My voice was loud enough for the few people in the parking lot to hear. The dealership voided the sale. It is going back. Mateo, please, Diego begged. He tried to grab my arm, but I stepped back. This is our only transport. We cannot get to work. We cannot look for a place to live without it. You should have thought about that before you wired $20,000 out of my account, I said. Hank finished securing the car. He gave me a thumbs up and drove off. The black coupe disappeared down the road. Diego fell to his knees on the asphalt. Camila just stared at me with pure hatred. You are a monster, she spat. You are leaving your family on the street. I am leaving 2 thieves exactly where they belong, I said. Do not follow me. Do not call me. I got back in my truck and drove straight to my parents' house. This was the next necessary step. I knew Diego would call them. I knew he would spin a story about how I was abusing my power, how I was being cruel. I had to strike first. My mother was in the kitchen. She looked like she had not slept in days. My father was sitting at the table, staring at a cup of coffee. He called. Mom said softly. He said you took his car. He said they have nowhere to go, Mateo. He stole $20,000 from me, Mom. I said. I placed the bank statements on the table. And yesterday, Camila filed a police report claiming I beat her. She tried to have me arrested. My father looked up. What? I pulled out my phone. I played the security footage. They watched in silence as I calmly asked them to leave, and as they walked out unharmed. They saw the lie exposed in high definition. My father stood up. His face was hard. The phone rang. It was Diego. Dad looked at the caller ID. He pressed the speaker button. Dad? Dad? Please help us. Diego's voice cracked. Mateo is crazy. He took the car. We need money for a room tonight. I saw the bank statement, Diego, my father said. His voice was shaking, not with sadness, but with anger. And I saw the video. You tried to send your brother to jail with a lie. Dad, it is not like that. Do not call this number again, my father said. You are not my son anymore. You are a stranger who stole from his own blood. He hung up. The silence in the kitchen was heavy. My mother was crying, but she did not argue. The line was drawn. I spent the next month focusing on reconstruction. My lawyer, Ricardo, was handling the asset recovery. I went to the gym every day. It was the only place where I could silence the noise in my head. That was where I met Sophia. I was hitting the heavy bag, losing track of time. I did not realize I had split my knuckles until someone tapped me on the shoulder. You are bleeding on the equipment, a voice said. I turned around. A woman stood there. She had dark hair tied back tight, and eyes that looked like they missed nothing. She was wearing scrubs. Sorry, I said. I did not notice. I am a nurse, she said. Let me look at it. She cleaned the cut with antiseptic from her bag. We started talking. Not about the weather. About real things. She told me she was divorced. Her husband had left her for her best friend 2 years ago. How did you get over it? I asked. I didn't, she said, looking me in the eyes. I got through it. There is a difference. You rebuild. You get stronger. And you stop looking back. Sophia became my anchor. We did not rush into anything romantic. We just trained together. We talked. She reminded me that there was a world outside of my anger. For the first time since coming home, I felt like I could breathe. But the war was not over. 3 months into the divorce proceedings, I sat in the courtroom. We were there to finalize the property division. I was confident. We had proof of the adultery, the fraud, the false police report. Ricardo told me it would be a slam dunk. Camila walked in with a new lawyer, a man known for dragging cases out for years. She looked different. She was wearing loose clothing. She refused to look at me. The judge asked if we were ready to proceed. Camila's lawyer stood up. He adjusted his tie and smiled a thin, predatory smile. Your Honor, we have a new development that materially affects this case, he said. My client is pregnant. The room went silent. I felt the blood drain from my face. She is 3 months along, the lawyer continued. Under state law, a divorce cannot be finalized until the paternity of the child is established. We request a stay of all proceedings until the birth of the child. Furthermore, we are filing an emergency motion for temporary spousal support and housing costs, as the mother of Mr. Garcia's child cannot be homeless. I looked at Camila. She finally looked at me. There was no shame in her eyes, only triumph. It is not mine, I said, standing up. I was deployed. I have not touched her in 9 months. That is a matter for a paternity test, the lawyer said smoothly. Which, as you know, the court typically waits to administer until after the birth to ensure the safety of the fetus. Until then, the presumption of paternity stands. You are the husband. You are the father. I sank back into my chair. It was a checkmate. She had bought herself 6 months of time. 6 months where I would have to pay for her. 6 months where she would be tied to me. Ricardo leaned close to me. We need to fight this now. If the judge grants this, you are on the hook for everything. She is lying, I whispered. It is Diego's. We know that, Ricardo said. But the law is slow. Unless. He stopped. He looked at me. Mateo, did you keep the text messages? The ones from the old phone plan? Yes, I said. Why? Because if she planned this, Ricardo said, his eyes narrowing. If she discussed this pregnancy as a strategy, then this is not just a delay tactic. It is conspiracy to commit paternity fraud. I remembered the cloud account, the one that synced all our devices before I changed the passwords. I had never looked at the archived messages from the week before I cut off her access. I pulled out my phone right there in the courtroom. I logged into the backup server. I scrolled back to the dates right after I kicked them out. And there it was. A message thread between Camila and Diego. I read the first line, and I knew I had the weapon that would end them. I handed the phone to Ricardo. My hand was steady, but my pulse was hammering in my neck. Ricardo adjusted his glasses. He read the screen. His eyes widened. He did not whisper to me. He did not ask for clarification. He stood up immediately, interrupting the opposing counsel mid-sentence. Your Honor, I must object to this entire motion, Ricardo said. His voice boomed in the small courtroom. We have just discovered evidence that proves this pregnancy claim is not a biological possibility, but a criminal conspiracy. Camila's lawyer stopped talking. He looked confused. Objection. This is an ambush. This is the truth, Ricardo countered. I would like to submit digital evidence to the court. A text message exchange between the plaintiff and her lover, Diego Garcia, dated 3 weeks ago. The judge gestured for the bailiff to take the phone. Camila went pale. She knew exactly what was on that device. She tried to stand up. "I am not feeling well," she stammered. "I need to leave." "Sit down, Mrs. Garcia," the judge ordered. Her voice was like steel. The judge took the phone. The courtroom was silent. I watched the judge's eyes move back and forth as she read the scrolling text. The silence stretched for a full minute. Then, she looked up. The expression on her face was not judicial neutrality. It was disgust. "Counselor," the judge said to Camila's lawyer, "I am going to read this into the record. You might want to listen closely." She looked at the phone and began to read aloud. "Sender, Camila. Timestamp, October 14th, 10:30 a.m. Message, I will tell the court the baby is Mateo's. The military will garnish his wages automatically if I file for support. We can drag the divorce out for 18 months. The judge paused. She scrolled down. Sender, Diego. Message, are you sure he will not ask for a test? Sender, Camila. Message, he is too proud. He will just pay to keep it quiet. We can use his allotment checks to pay off your gambling debts. By the time he figures it out, we will be gone. The judge set the phone down on the bench. The sound echoed like a gunshot. She looked at Camila. Gambling debts, the judge said. You are not asking for support for a child. You are attempting to defraud a service member to pay for illicit activities. Camila's lawyer began packing his briefcase. He did not look at his client. Your Honor, I request a recess. I need to consult with my client regarding potential criminal exposure. Motion denied, the judge said. I am issuing an order right now. The request for spousal support is denied with prejudice. The request to stay proceedings is denied. I am ordering an emergency DNA test to be conducted within 48 hours. And Mrs. Garcia, if that test comes back negative, as your own text suggests it will, I am forwarding this transcript to the district attorney's office for fraud charges. Camila put her head in her hands. It was over. The trap she had built to catch me had just snapped shut on her own neck. The test happened the next day. The results came back 24 hours later. The probability of my paternity was 0%. The probability of Diego's paternity was 99.9%. I met with Ricardo to sign the final papers. We got everything, Ricardo said, pushing the document toward me. The house is yours. The pension is 100% yours. And because of the fraud attempt, the judge awarded you full legal fees. She will have to pay every cent I billed you. She has no money, I said, signing my name. Then we garnish her future wages, Ricardo said. For the rest of her life, if necessary. I walked out of the law office a free man. But there was one loose end. Diego. I knew about the gambling debts now. That explained the desperation. That explained the theft of the $20,000. He was in deep with bad people. And now that the plan to use my money had failed, those people would be coming for him. I drove to the storage unit facility I used for my military gear. I had a feeling. I swiped my card at the gate and drove to Unit 42. The lock was cut. I parked and walked to the rolling door. Inside, my gear was tossed around. My Kevlar vest was gone. My night vision goggles were missing. These were sensitive items. Selling them was a federal crime. I checked the security log on the facility app. A gate code had been used 2 hours ago. It was my old code. The one Diego knew. I did not call the police this time. I knew where he would go. There was a pawn shop on the east side that asked no questions. I drove there. I saw the black coupe. No, he lost that. I saw a rusted sedan parked out front. Inside the shop, I saw Diego at the counter. He was holding my night vision goggles. The broker was counting out cash. I walked in. The bell on the door chimed. Diego turned around. He looked terrible. His eyes were sunken. He had not shaved in days. When he saw me, he flinched, dropping the goggles on the counter. Those are government property, I told the broker. Stolen from a staff sergeant. The broker stopped counting. He pulled the cash back. Get out, he told Diego. I do not want trouble with the army. Diego grabbed the goggles and tried to run past me. I blocked the door. Move, Mateo, he shouted. I need this money. They are going to break my legs. You should have thought about that before you bet money you did not have, I said. Put the gear down. You do not understand. He screamed. He pulled a knife from his pocket. A small, cheap switchblade. Get out of my way. I looked at the knife. Then I looked at him. He was shaking. He was weak. You really want to do this? I asked. You want to add armed robbery and assault on a federal agent to your list? I took one step forward. Diego hesitated. He looked at the knife, then at me. He knew he could not win. He dropped the knife. He dropped the goggles. He collapsed onto the dirty floor of the pawn shop and started to weep. "Help me," he sobbed. "Please, brother. Help me." I picked up my gear. I picked up the knife and closed it. "I already helped you," I said. "I stopped you from selling this. That just saved you 10 years in federal prison." I walked out of the shop. I left him on the floor. I got into my truck and called the military police to report the attempted theft, giving them his location. I was done saving him. Now, I was just cleaning up the mess. I drove to Sophia's apartment. She was waiting with dinner. I walked in, and for the first time in months, I did not feel the weight of the war on my shoulders. "It is done," I told her. "The divorce?" she asked. "Everything," I said. "The house, the money, the brother." She poured 2 glasses of wine. "To new beginnings," she said. "To justice," I replied. But as I drank, I knew the final blow was still coming for them. The gambling sharks were looking for Diego. The district attorney was looking for Camila. And I was simply the spectator in the front row, watching the inevitable crash. The fallout was swift. The judge kept her word. She forwarded the transcripts of the text messages to the district attorney the same afternoon. 2 days after the confrontation at the pawn shop, the police arrived at the motel where Camila was staying. They arrested her for conspiracy to commit fraud and filing a false police report. Because she was pregnant, she was not held in jail, but the charges stuck. She pleaded guilty to avoid a prison sentence. The result was 5 years of probation and a permanent felony record. She lost her nursing license. She lost her reputation. She was unhireable. Diego did not get off so easily. The military police took the report about the stolen night vision goggles seriously. Theft of government property is a federal crime. Combined with the bank fraud regarding the $20,000, he was looking at serious time. He took a plea deal. He served 18 months in a federal correctional facility. But the prison time was the least of his problems. The people he owed gambling debts to were not forgiving. While he was inside, they liquidated everything he had left. When he walked out of prison, he had the clothes on his back and a limp that would never go away. A reminder of debts unpaid. For years have passed since the gavel fell. I am 39 years old now. I sit on the back porch of the house they tried to steal. It does not look the same. Sophia and I gutted the interior. We tore down the walls that held bad memories. We built a nursery where the guest room used to be. Sophia is my wife now. We married in a small ceremony 2 years ago. No drama. No secrets. Just loyalty. We have a daughter, Elena. She is 2 years old. She has Sophia's eyes and my stubbornness. My parents come over every Sunday for dinner. They hold Elena, and they smile. They never mention Diego. As far as the family tree is concerned, that branch has been cut off to save the tree from rot. I saw Diego once. It was 6 months ago. I was stopped at a red light downtown. I looked out the window and saw a man pushing carts in a grocery store parking lot. He looked 20 years older. His hair was thinning. He walked with a heavy limp. It was him. He looked up and saw my truck. He saw me. For a second, our eyes locked. I expected to feel anger. I expected to feel the urge to shout or to gloat. But I felt nothing. It was like looking at a stranger. A ghost. He looked down and pushed the cart away. The light turned green, and I drove on. I never looked back. Camila moved 3 states away. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that she is raising the child alone. She works double shifts at a diner because no hospital will hire a nurse with a fraud conviction. She sends emails to my parents once a year, trying to reconnect. My father deletes them without reading. They made their choice. They chose betrayal. They chose greed. And now they are living in the ruins of those choices. I often think about that day I came home early. I think about the moment I stood in the doorway and saw my world collapse. It would have been easy to do something violent. It would have been easy to do something that would have put me in the cell next to Diego. But I chose a different weapon. I chose discipline. I chose the law. I chose to build a future instead of burning down the present. People ask me how I survived it, how I learned to trust again. The answer is simple. You do not trust blindly. You trust actions, not words. You protect yourself. And when someone shows you who they really are, you believe them the first time. I look at Sophia playing with Elena in the yard. I look at the home I paid for, the career I built, and the peace I earned. This is the victory. Not the suffering of my enemies, but the happiness of my family. Diego and Camila destroyed their own lives. They planted the seeds of their destruction with every lie and every stolen dollar. I just stood back and let the harvest happen. If you are going through something similar, remember this. Rage is a fuel, but it burns out. Strategy lasts forever. Do not just get mad. Get smart. Document everything. Protect your assets. And never, ever let them see you bleed. My name is Mateo. I was betrayed by my blood and my wife. I lost a brother. I lost a marriage. But I won my life back. And looking at my daughter's smile, I know I came out ahead. Thank you for watching my story. If you believe that justice is best served cold and legal, hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe, because I have many more stories to tell. Until next time, stay strong.